my opinion, the most efficient way to find the value of a when we already can see that it's in vertex form, where the vertex is -3, -5, because you do the opposite of the x coordinate and then keep this one at face value. We could really see that here on the graph, right? But we still don't know our a value. Let's go ahead and plug in a particular ordered pair that's very clear on the graph. For example, the y-intercept being 0, -1. So I'm going to make x 0 and g of x, aka y, -1. And I'll rewrite everything else. A parentheses, remember we replaced the x with 0, plus 3 squared minus 5. Now technically what I could do is use solver, and you might be thinking, well, wouldn't it be quad solver? No, because what's being squared here? Is it the a, in other words, the variable? No, it's actually this quantity in parentheses, right? So the a itself is to the first power. So let's see how that plays out, and then we can do it by hand as well. But solver is program number 5. We'll go ahead and type in negative, make sure you use the negative key, and then we'll type in x, parentheses, and I can put in everything just as is. 0 plus 3 squared minus, I should actually use a normal minus sign there, minus 5, and we get our answer as 0.4 repeating. Now at this point we could say, well, I could definitely eliminate a and b because they're negative, and I definitely got positive 0.4 repeating. That's a plus sign. So now I'm down to 4/3 and 4/9. Well, if you know anything about fractions being improper versus proper, 4/3 is improper, which means it's greater than 1, whereas 0.4 repeating is definitely smaller than 1. So I could tell it's 4/9, but if we want to just test it out, let's say if I do 4/3, you'll see it's 1 1/3. If I do 4/9, I see that it matches my 0.4 repeating. We get the answer as D, and we could move on. However, if you're curious about the algebra, we do parentheses first. 0 plus 3 is 3. So think about order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? PEMDAS. We already did parentheses. Now we're on to exponents. 3 squared is 9. 9 times a, I'm going to write it as 9a instead of a9. But we did exponents. And then there's no multiplication or division. We're going to go ahead and solve by adding 5. And now we have 9a equals 4. And then finally, when we divide both sides by 9, we get 4/9 or D. So a neat way we could have done it using Desmos, let's go ahead and pull it up here in the upper right corner. Remember, if you would have had any functions, you click the gear icon, delete all if you had some from a previous problem. And we could just type this in exactly the way that we see it, including g of x equals. And then notice, a good thing to know that honestly throws students off a bit is when to realize that the value represented here by a letter is a constant instead of a variable. Basically, A's, B's, and C's are usually constants, and we just keep them that way. Whereas the latter part of the alphabet, you'll see R's, S's, T's, and then usually X's, Y's, and Z's are actual variables that you type in essentially as X. So in this case, let's go ahead and type this in. Even though I didn't choose to add it as a slider, which I could have just clicked here, I'm going to go ahead and continue with the problem, and I'll choose Shift 6 to do the caret, or you could do it in the keyboard. I'll type this in, press right to go down, -5, and once I press enter, it really adds the slider for me. So if we're trying to find what's the value of a, in some problems you're doing a sliding to figure it out, but in this case it's multiple choice, so I can just type in -1 and I see, oh, the parabola is now opening down. That doesn't even look anywhere near my actual function. Same thing's going to happen with -2/3 because we know a negative coefficient makes the parabola open down, whereas a positive makes it open up. So we automatically know that both a and b are out of the running. And then now between 4/3 and 4/9, notice what happens. If I type in 4/3, we get this parabola, which looks more like ours. However, when you go up here, you can see that at this part, it passes over to the positive x values right here, whereas this function doesn't do so until way up here. So it's looking like 4/9 is going to be the correct answer, but let's just verify that. Yeah, that looks exactly like our function, and we're able to get the answer is D.